I'm going to demonstrate in Rhino how to create a die line for an E-flute corrugated box structure. I'm going to use all of these objects. These are like mock-up tools that we use in our class just to show the example of how this process is going to work. So I actually started with all of these items in my hand, and I didn't do the 3D mock-ups of the objects like I have here. I'm just using this to show everybody what I'm working with. I'm going to do a separate tutorial on how I built these and how I use decals and texture maps and some simple building tools to create these. But I just want to show this for an example. So I actually developed this die line and the idea for that without doing the 3D data first. This is sort of a different process than I had shown originally. So these are the items I have, glue and tape, X-Acto blades, erasers, pens and pencils, a scoring stick. I have a beam compass, a whole series of different things, and triangles and circle templates. So I think I have like 15 different objects here, and they're all different shapes. So it can be a little challenging to figure out how to accommodate all of these into a structure. So I started figuring out how to accommodate them, and I came up with this sketch about how this might work. So I'm trying to hold everything in only two compartments. So I have this little low box profile tray in the front with a cover on it. And then in the back, I have the tape and the glue and the templates standing up in the back compartment. So when this hinges over, I have a very clean presentation and everything is accessible and it can stand out on your desk while you're working. And then it's easily folded up. And I'm going to have an outer sleeve that slides into position that holds it. And you can put it in your backpack. It's a relatively thin profile. It's only about 1.5 inches thick when it's folded up and closed. So this is what I did. I didn't do it in the 3D. I did this by hand with the objects on my desk. I sort of just started moving them around and measuring and trying to figure out how this might work. So this is the goal. This is the sketch, and I have some dimensions that I guessed would work to figure out how this is going to happen. So let's start with the all right, so I have this in top view. I brought in the sketch so I can use this for reference when I start building this. I have it in render mode so we can see the sketch as I'm working because I'm going to take the dimensions right out of this and start building. I'm going to do this with the curve tools with just lines. I'm not going to do surfaces at this point. And I'm going to create them all separately. And then I'll just take the ones that I want and bring them to another level, to another layer, and put them together to create our 3D box structure that we can map our graphics on. And then I'll do that into another tutorial. This will be just to develop the diagram. So I'm starting with these numbers here. I have these two front panels that are going to be the same. And I have the dimension here at 7.5 inches because it comes from the glue is a 6-inch high bottle. And then I have my 1.5 inch little tray in the front that'll go on top of the glue. So that's where I'm getting my 7.5 inches. So I'm going to start with that. I have ortho on and I have my snap tools on. So all I have to do is bring this down and I can just input 7.5 inches. And then my width, I have it 8 3/8. And that comes from the length of the pencils and the templates and all that to get those to fit. So now I'm just going to copy these. I have to bring this all the way down and I'm going to bring it to the midpoint because these two panels on the front are exactly the same. So when I fold it down, they line up perfectly and everything sits down on the desk at the same location. So I'm just going to use my move tool, move copies. So I'm going to move this over and snap to midpoint, and then I'm going to snap down to down to the bottom. Move a copy of this one over to the other side. Box is 1.5 inches. So if I go back to my curve tool, I'm going to come down here at the bottom. This will be the side of the box, which is going to fold off of this edge. And I'll bring a copy of that up to the top. Okay, So that's ready to go. That's the side here. So now the next piece of information is right here. This little line is the front of that tray, which is actually this part over here. So I know that's going to be 1.5 inches because that's what I wanted that height of that tray to be. So I'm going to go back to my line tool and I'm going to make this line here 1.5 inches. That gives me the information I need to draw this diagonal. It's coming from the center of the front panel and going up to that edge. And that represents these angled surfaces I have here. And then I'm just going to continue this line down here. So by creating these separately, I can take these individual lines and bring them to another layer and turn them into surfaces. That's why I'm building it without using a surface tool and without using the rectangular tool. So now I have all of that piece, that information right there on that side. So another piece that I'm going to need to know is I'm going to take this. Let's do this now. Take that, and I'm going to just mirror it over to the other side because we know that that's going to be symmetrical. I'm going to snap to my midpoint. So that's the most important part of the information. So I'm going to move this over a little bit so I have room to build the rest of this. Put it about here. Now the next part I'm going to need to build here is the back panel that comes over to here. So I know that's 6 inches high and it's going to be 8 3/8, same distance as it is on the front. So I can just take one of these lines and move this over because it's going to be the same as that. So I'm going to move a copy of that and snap that right to this edge here. And then that gives me that. So this, I know this is 6 inches because that's 1.5 and I have a total of 7.5. So all the math works out. I'm going to move a copy of that over here. Endpoint. And then I'm going to bring this line up. Up to here. That's my back panel, which is right over here. So we're going to have, I'm going to make a panel at the bottom that is going to completely cap off the box when it's glued shut. So that means that this will be a 1.5 inch panel that I'm going to have over here. And I'm going to have another one on the other side to cap off the top part of the box, it's going to create these two bottom surfaces. So it's the same number. I'm going to come from here and come down. I'm going to go 1.5. And I'll just copy that over. I do have some tab details I'm starting to think about. What I want to do is when this box hinges open along this fold right here, and it comes down, it's not going to stay down very nicely because this is E-flute. So this fold will be pretty rigid. So it'll want to pop up. So I'm going to make a little tab at the bottom. So when you open this up, that little tab will engage with the back part and it'll hold this open. So there was a little bit of trial and error when I did this. Initially, I made a couple of samples, but I'm starting to figure out how that's going to work on the sketch that I had created. So to finish off this end panel, I'm going to move a copy of this down to here. And over here, we're going to have a glue flap. And I want it to line up. So I'm going to take this edge right here and I'm going to mirror it over. So I'm going to mirror a copy. I have copy on, and I'm going to just work to the top here. Now, the glue flap doesn't need to be as large as the entire side. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to use my line tool. I'm going to turn ortho off because I'm going to angle this up slightly to keep it away from that bottom edge. So when I glue it together, it won't get in the way. So I'm going to click here and then I'm going to turn ortho back on. And I'll come up to this edge and I'm going to snap up to this part right here. And then now it's going to draw the part of this angle that I want to keep. And I'll just snap to here. Then I can get rid of this guideline that I used. So that'll be my glue flap. That'll come over to the other side over here and glue to this part. So that's just about ready, except for the little tab detail. We'll talk about how that's going to work later. So now on the other side, we have the front of the tray. And that is also going to be the same width. So I can take this line, I can move a copy over, and I'm going to move another copy down here. So that'll be the front of the tray, which comes off of the side, and it's going to glue over to this side. So I do need a little glue flap over here. So let's put that in now. Turn ortho off. Again, I'm going to put that little bit of an angle, a little bit of relief here so it doesn't get in the way when I glue that. So if I just draw that, and then I'm going to mirror a copy of that. I'm going to work on center here, and I don't have ortho on. If I put ortho on, then that'll snap directly up to there. Oh. And then all I have to do is connect these two lines. This is going to be a glue flap. That'll go to the other side. So the panels here, along the bottom here and along the top, those are going to be all glue flaps that the large glue bottom part is going to fit over. So I'm going to put 45-degree angles in between them so they all lay flat and there's not a lot of layer buildup. And how big these are is kind of, it's not going to be a full 1.5. So I'm just going to sort of guess about how big I want that. But what I do want is I want that to be on a 45-degree angle. So if I go to my rotate tool, I believe that would be -45. No, but that's okay. I'll just mirror that over. Because I need two of them here. So I'm just going to mirror that over like that. And I'm going to draw a guideline out to here, because then I want to put the other side of this, and I'm going to turn off ortho. And again, I'm going to angle that in just slightly like this. I think I missed. Yes. Snapped here. And again, I'm just going to come in just slightly on an angle. It's not snapping. So I'm just going to put my near snap on. So it'll snap to that line right there. I don't want the midpoint that makes it go straight up. I'm just going to come in slightly and put it right here. And then I can get rid of the guideline, and then I can just connect these two right here. Okay. So that is going to be the same piece of information that I want on the other side. So I'm going to select all that. I'm going to do center lock, deselect that little line. So all I want are those. And I'm going to mirror that over to the other side. And it's mirror copy, and I'll snap. Let's put ortho on so it goes nice and square. And I'm going to turn near off because sometimes that fights with other snapping. And on the midpoint. And now I brought that to the other side. Did it go? No. Let's do that again. mirror, copy, midpoint. And there we are. So now all I have to do is connect these two lines and I have all these glue flaps ready to go. So that's good. So that same piece of information is going to be down here at the bottom. So I'm going to select those. I'm just going to do center lock to deselect. I don't want these edges because I have them at the bottom already. And I don't need that one. Okay, so these are ready to be put down at the bottom. So I'm just going to mirror that in a downward direction. And I'll snap to the center like this. And now I have that information at the bottom. And that's going to glue flap to that and so forth and so on. So that actually this panel will be the same as this panel up here, but I'll just rebuild it quickly. That ortho on, it's 1.5 inches. And we'll move a copy of that over. Oh, missed. Copy. Snap to end. And then just finish that off by moving a copy of this up to the top here. Don't need so many copies. Okay. So that's that part there. So we have that'll be the glue flap at the bottom. That's the front of the tray. It's a little confusing because I'm creating two tube gluing structures, one at the bottom, one at the back, so I can get all these parts to fit. A lot of this will become a little bit more apparent when you actually see the mock-up that I'm going to show you when it's completed. So all of these are 1.5 inches because I have it, the height and the depth are all 1.5 inches. So it's all the same piece of information here. What I can do is select this and that, and I'm just going to move a copy. So I'll just move a copy of this down. Bring that right to here. Okay, so this edge so this is the front of the little tray that's out in front of the whole box. And then this is the top, and then there'll be another piece that tucks in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to select this part right here. I'm going to move that in slightly. So there's a little bit of clearance because it's going to have to fit in between two walls, and we're going to be hinging this open. So let's just move that in. These are some of the tolerances that we need to allow for the thickness of the cardboard. This is E-flute, so it's pretty thin, but we still need to have a little bit of space there. So I'm going to keep this ortho. I'm just going to move this in just a little bit. So I actually moved a copy. Oops. Okay. All right, so that'll work. It's just a little bit there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, I'm going to mirror it over to the other side. So I have that same tolerance on the other side, and I'm going to go to midpoint, bring that over to here. So now it's slightly inside of that line. So over here, we're going to continue this part to here, because that's the front. So that needs to be full width. This line, since this is smaller, I'm going to get rid of that one. And I'm going to put a new line that's from that edge to that edge. So now this panel is narrower. And when it fits in there, that should work really well. So again, I'm going to take this and move this down. This will create the inside flap. This is a little confusing, but it'll become clear when we see the whole part. So I'm going to move copy. And we'll just put that to here. Oh, I didn't bring these down. Okay, we'll copy. Put that right to here. Okay. So let's check the little sketch I have laid out. That's about right. So we're going to have this little round here. Put your finger in to pull that open, and I'm going to radius those corners. So when it fits in there, it goes in there relatively easily. And that's about right. So we use the circle tool, and that's going to go here. So the circle will go on both surfaces, so you can get your finger in there. And I'm probably doing this roughly maybe 7/8 of an inch, which would be 0.44 radius. Okay, so that's that part there. Now to radius these edges, we're going to go to, we need to radius these two corners so this can fit in. So under the curve tools, very first tool over here is the fillet tool for these lines. So all we have to do is just select the two lines that we want to create the fillet in, and it automatically does that. And we will do that again on the other side. Okay, so that's ready to go. I think we have all the parts. The thing we don't have yet are these little locking tabs. So I'm just going to bring that up. I have this on a layer already. Let me see. Large DL. Okay, so I think I even changed this. I was looking at this little square tab in the middle. I think I just did like a little half round on that. So I'm going to make that change. All right, there is a little bit of a tolerance I created here. These panels with the 45 degrees, those are going to fold in, and this panel is going to glue on top of them. So what I did was I moved this little space right here. I just added roughly, I don't even know how much I did, maybe 90 thousandths, 60 thousandths, about 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little bit more, just so that can fold on top and sit on top of those. So that happens in two locations. That happens there. And it also happens down here because this panel is going to glue on top. So this took a little trial and error with these tabs. I have this little tab here that's going to fit into this, and this will become more apparent when I cut this out to glue this. So that creates an area for this tab to fit in that slides in so it holds in that section there. So we'll show that when I make it. So since I tile these, I put these center lines. It just helps me to, so I know where to cut so I can put the pieces together. Because I'm going to tile this and then use it on my printer. So what we need to do is we need to export this, and it needs to be exactly 100%. This is very, very important. So I create this border on here, and it's really not that critical how big it is, but I need to memorize how big it is so I can take a look at that. So if you go into the drafting tools, I think I had set up dimension style. So I have this at 32 inches wide. And let's see, what height did I make this? Okay, 14. All right, so I'm gonna just undo that. So all we have to do is select everything. And if you go under the File tool, say Export Selected, um, we need to go into PDF. A lot of options here. Go to PDF. And I have this saved already, so we'll just save it again. Uh, I think I had a couple of tests here. Um, test two. Okay, that sounds good. So here you click this, go for save, and it says it exists already because I have it. It's going to go yes. Now this is the critical point right here. I have my dimensions in here, the 32 by 14. Got to make sure we put those in there. And we need to go to extends, which fills up the screen. And then we have to make sure our scale is 1:1. This is very, very critical. So we have this exactly at the right size because we've done all these calculations. We can't have it off even a little bit. So PDF, it'll be a print function. So now that has been saved. And I can open this up in Illustrator. You can print right from this PDF, but you have to absolutely make sure that it's 100%. Sometimes we use outside printing sources. They have a little edge or clearances, and it doesn't quite come out 100%, so it's critical. So I try to do it myself. I bring it into Illustrator, and I tile it. Like I'll tile this probably, I don't know, 4 panels maybe, 8.5 by 11, and I cut them and I tape them together, and then I double check before I start cutting that the dimensions are correct. All right, so that's creating the die line, and I'll do another tutorial on actually making the structure, and then I'm going to continue doing the tutorial on how I built all the products for the rendering part of this whole process.